Gal Gadot is trying a Reese's peanut butter cup for the first time right now.
Throughout history, there has been one true universal constant. Everyone gets the munchies. So here are the 10 most popular junk foods from every decade. The 1900s, Hershey's milk chocolate.
Is it Swiss or French chocolate?
Maybe German.
While the world-famous chocolate in the dark brown wrapper has a reputation for satisfying your sweet tooth, its rise to global prosperity took off at the turn of the last century. It was in the late 1880s when manufacturer Milton Hershey found his calling to produce sugary sweets by opening the Lancaster Caramel Company. By 1894, the business had expanded to creating other treats aside from caramel, and in 1900, Mr. Hershey sold his caramel company for a whopping $1 million. $32.5 million when adjusted for today, so that he could switch his focus to just one thing: manufacturing and selling milk chocolate. The first Hershey's milk chocolate bar was sold that year and was a major hit. Just 3 years later, the business had grown so much that it required a larger and more modern factory to keep up with demand. A new chocolate manufacturing plant was built in the small town of Derry, Pennsylvania, and it would be the world's largest candy-exclusive factory by the time it was completed. Just 4 years after his factory opened, Milton Hershey invented another chocolate treat to help keep up with demand. In 1907, the world was introduced to Hershey's Kisses, the bite-sized, foil-wrapped version of the larger bar-formed treat. Originally, each miniature chocolate was painstakingly wrapped by hand at the factory and proved so popular that even today the company sells over 7 million Hershey Kisses every year.
Wow.
Hershey's enduring popularity is due to a reputation for quality chocolate, taking what was once a luxurious dessert for the rich and making it accessible to the common working class. The 1910s, Oreo Cookies.
Mother, Oreo smoothie now!
When the first decade of the century turned over, it was another chocolate treat that captured people's imaginations. Created as a direct competitor to the then-popular Hydrox sandwich cookie, the National Biscuit Company's Oreo cookie found its way to store shelves for the first time in 1912. The popularity of Hydrox cookies seemed easy enough to piggyback on, so they did. The recipe was simple, with 2 chocolate cookies sandwiching a sweet cream filling that gave customers the interactive option to twist them, dunk them with milk, split them, or just eat them as they were. The original Oreos cost 25 cents a pound and were first sold at a grocery shop in Hoboken, New Jersey. The cream-filled concoction proved so successful that it almost immediately outsold its rival Hydrox and never looked back, with many consumers still thinking of Hydrox as an Oreo ripoff and not vice versa.
Bet you didn't know.
The recipe has been tweaked slightly in the decades since the 1910s as tastes and health options evolved. The lard in the cream filling has now been substituted with hydrogenated vegetable oil, for example. Limited edition Oreos have also been released over the years, ranging from a brief attempt at lemon filling in 1924 to more eccentric attempts like Swedish fish or root beer float flavored Oreos. There was even a 2021 limited release collaboration with Lady Gaga. Over a century since they hit cookie jars everywhere, Oreo remains the best-selling cookie in the United States, and as of 2014, was the best-selling cookie brand on the entire planet. But no matter how many decades the treat lives on, the twist versus dunk debate just might live forever. The 1920s, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
I want a Reese's, yo. Peanut butter cup?
Chocolate continued as a junk food favorite into the roaring 20s, and late in the decade it was introduced to its newest dance partner, peanut butter.
Perfect.
A former employee of the Hershey Company, H.B. Reese, was always fascinated by the candy creation game. Reese worked as a foreman in the shipping department of the Hershey factory and was constantly surrounded with ideas of what else could be done to chocolate, aside from the basic idea of selling it in bars. He even took to experimenting with flavors and textures on his own, constantly bringing home Hershey's milk chocolate to tinker with in his basement, and branched out from the Hershey empire in 1923. He founded the H.B. Reese Candy Company and was able to market a few of his creations in department stores. But by 1928, he needed something exciting to continue making a living in the chocolate game. Luck would strike that same year, and the chocolatier would be inspired to create the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. The chocolate and peanut butter pairing was an instant success, marketing boxes that held 120 cups each and charging 1 penny per peanut butter cup. Those pennies added up fast enough that within the first 7 years, Reese had completely paid off the mortgages on both his house and factory. The pennies would still pile up nearly a century later. As of 2012, Reese's peanut butter cups were the #1 selling candy in the United States, with $2.5 billion worth of sales that year alone. The 1930s, Twinkies.
Where's the Twinkies?
Those lean years might have been called the Dirty 30s, but one of the all-time snack food heroes would emerge to cheer things up during the Great Depression. In April of 1930, Twinkies were invented in a small Illinois suburb. James Dewar was a Canadian citizen working at the Continental Baking Company and is the genius behind the timeless treat. James had noticed the pans and machinery typically reserved for making strawberry shortbread cakes weren't being put to use during the months that strawberries were out of season. Rather than have everything sit around collecting dust, he proposed filling the shortcakes with something besides strawberries and settled on the banana cream supply that the Continental Baking Company had a steady stream of. Thus, the Twinkie was born. James's fellow employee, Richie Kopf, is credited with inventing the name, claiming he got the idea from a billboard he passed by every day. It was an advertisement for twinkle toe shoes, and the nickname Twinkie just rolled off the tongue. Meanwhile, the snack cakes rolled off the assembly line as a big hit. Twinkies were a staple for snackers for 82 years, but a Twinkie tragedy struck in 2012. Hostess, the snack cake's parent company, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, claiming a 20% drop in sales of the cakes.
Horse!
But the Depression-era resiliency of the treat would see it back on shelves after only a year away when the brand was bought out and returned to the market in 2013. The 1940s, M&Ms.
Do you think I'm an idiot?
Everyone knows M&Ms melt in your mouth and not in your hand, but the reason why is a direct result of world history. Forrest Mars, son of the famous Mars candy magnate, got the idea from spending time in Britain during the Spanish Civil War. He noticed British soldiers feeding themselves on what they called chocolate beans, which were milk chocolate covered in an outer shell of a harder chocolate that kept them from melting.
What a wonderful idea.
In those days, before widespread refrigeration technology, chocolate sales always dropped off in the summer because the candy would melt in the heat. A light bulb immediately went off for Forrest Mars. Returning to the States, he received a patent for his idea and started manufacturing the sweets in 1941. At the time, Bruce's father was president of the Hershey Company, which would supply the milk chocolate for M&Ms in exchange for 20% of the sales profit. The first major sales contract for M&Ms reached back to their military roots as the U.S. Army backed the candy as a durable ration for soldiers in warmer climates. In fact, during World War II, the candies were produced specifically for the Army and were not sold to the public. Considering the candy's connections to times of war, maybe one of those M's should stand for military. The 1950s, the meteoric rise of fast food.
I'll have the Big Mac, please.
Great joy.
In today's world, fast food restaurants are an integral part of everyday life. They dot the sides of every highway and can be found on every street corner from major urban cities to small towns and suburbs. These days, it would be hard for snack food aficionados to imagine life without them. But there was a time when getting your dinner without slaving over a hot stove all day or getting your dinner without leaving your car were stunning new ideas. It was the decade of the nuclear family with the white picket fence who had easy access to automobiles with new highways to drive on and a fancy new invention called the television that replaced the dinner table as the spot to gather for family dinner. At the forefront of this movement was McDonald's, and even though it was founded in the 1940s, its real breakthroughs occurred in the 50s. McDonald's debut of the speedy service system revolutionized food service, and the rest of the industry got wise real quick. Speed, volume, efficiency, and low prices became the new norm for the business, and customers loved it for its convenience.
I love it. It is simply awesome.
Copycat models popped up almost immediately, such as Burger King and Dairy Queen. And it wasn't just burgers and fries that caught the public eye. Kentucky Fried Chicken, Domino's, Pizza Hut, and Dunkin' Donuts all entered the game in the 50s too. To this day, the fast food 50s have stood the test of time as a massive influence on modern food culture. The 1960s, Doritos.
Doritos! Not now, later.
A must-have for any customer stopping at the neighborhood corner store, Doritos are a Mexican-style staple for the snack food crowd. The pioneer of the Dorito was Arch West, who found inspiration while taking his family on a road trip through Southern California in 1964. Mr. West already had experience in the snack industry, previously working with the advertising department for Jell-O. His family vacation stumbled upon a roadside stand that sold fried tortilla chips, and his imagination was sparked.
It's gonna be legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
At the time, Arch was working for the marketing department at the Frito-Lay potato chip company, and it didn't take him long to sell the idea to his higher-ups. Doritos hit shelves across the nation in 1966 with a basic butter and salt flavor similar to snack crackers of the day, shortly followed by a taco flavor that was the precursor for the now beloved nacho cheese variety. To this day, the versatile finger food remains a big seller at any bodega in the country. The 1970s, cup noodles.
You can't smoke anymore, so ramen has replaced cigarettes.
In modern times, instant ramen noodles have transcended the world of broke college students and is now even sold as a bougie restaurant food with a myriad of upscale additions. But the convenience of the concept actually took off in the 1970s. Invented by Japanese businessman Momofuku Ando in 1958, the product eventually ran into a problem. Not everybody looking for a quick meal on the go carried around a bowl to cook and eat them with. In 1971, the American branch of the Nissin Foods Company stepped up the game when employee Ron Matson introduced instant ramen sold in a go-anywhere styrofoam cup.
And the rest was history.
The waterproof and heat-proof convenience continues to be a go-to lunch solution for busy and hungry people across the globe. Any fancy toppings are, unfortunately, sold separately. The 1980s. Teddy Grahams.
They're little graham cracker cookies shaped like teddy bears.
Sometimes the trick to a successful snack isn't just deliciousness, it should be fun for the whole family, too. In 1988, Nabisco introduced the world to a super cute teddy bear-themed graham cracker appropriately dubbed Teddy Grahams. The adorable design was a marketing smash, selling over $150 million worth of tasty teddies in their first year to market.
I'm rich. I'm rich.
Pushed as a healthier snack alternative to Nabisco's typical cookies, Teddy Grahams were manufactured without trans fat and are a good source of calcium and iron. It paid off, as the company touted them to be their most successful release in 25 years and remains their third highest seller today, behind more sugary faves like Oreos and Chips Ahoy. The 1990s. Lunchables.
You, an adult, you had a Lunchables for dinner last night.
If you had ever set foot in a school lunchroom at any time during the 20th century's final decade, it would have been impossible to miss Lunchables. They were a quintessential 90s snack that is still a favorite of kids and even nostalgic adults. Originally created to boost slumping sales of Oscar Mayer bologna, the focus group research had shown that working mothers were too pressed for time to prepare daily school lunches for their kids to take on the go, and the pre-packaged Lunchable was born. Modeled after TV dinners, Lunchables compartmentalized crackers, cheese, and sliced meat into a quick and easy solution ready to be scarfed down at a moment's notice.
Easy peasy.
The appeal has lasted well past its 90s glory, with $1.36 billion worth of lovable Lunchables being sold annually as recently as 2017. Even if that's how they started, it sounds like Lunchables are not just a bunch of baloney.
I'm kind of a big deal.